Hi there, I'm Dawn Livingston, and a big welcome to the Transcend and Succeed show. We're dedicated to inspire you to take steps to unlock the limitless potential within you and pave the way to an extraordinary life. My guests will provide education and expertise to allow you to change your perceptions and gain the wisdom to prompt you to take action to transcend your limitations and begin to achieve abundance in every aspect of your life. So, if you're ready to conquer your barriers, overcome your challenges, and embrace your true potential, you have come to the right place. And I'm excited to introduce this week's special guest right after this. Stay with us. Hey, and we're back. And today I'm excited to introduce this week's special guest, Greg Hman. So, welcome, Greg.
Oh, thank you for having me, Don. It's actually a real pleasure to sit down and chat with you.
Lovely to see you. Um, could you start by telling us about your journey from sickness to health and how you find yourself on this current path?
Yeah, it was actually a really difficult journey. And it's funny because I felt like I went through two different parts of the journey. One of them we spoke, you and I, briefly about when I was really young and really going through, I think, what a lot of youth was going through nowadays. But I feel like I went, when I was really young, through a lot of depression, a lot of sadness,
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of even suicidal tendencies, which I believe harmed my physical body. And so I went through that, and that was extremely difficult to get through. And then when I finally got through that, I thought I was kind of home free. I was like, okay, I finally got through this. And it was extremely hard. And I unfortunately poisoned myself multiple times and just did really terrible, dumb things to myself. And then I eventually did get physically sick. And I really felt like the mental depression and everything, all the darkness that I went through, I really thought that was the hardest thing that I ever went through in my life. And it was extremely hard. But the physical, when I went through being physically sick, it definitely was much more difficult than the mental aspect because I couldn't walk. I was in a great deal of pain. And those things bring on even more depression,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And I
Mhm.
couldn't do things to cope. I used to maybe go exercise or, do something to get it off my mind. But when you're completely bedridden, which I was, unfortunately, I mean, I had so many different things going on with me, from inflammation all over my body. It looked like it was, most likely some autoimmune issue.
Mhm.
But all my joints felt like I was literally going to damage them when I would try to do anything. It felt like I was going to just pull something or tear a ligament or something. It was very painful and it felt like arthritis. I mean, it was so bad I literally could not lift up a remote control and change a channel on television. I had so much pain. It was that
Wow.
bad. And then I had tumors in my body. I had a heart condition, which wasn't really helping matters because my cardiologist has told me that it was going to end my life and that I needed an open heart surgery, on top of all this stuff. My liver wasn't, at its best. My immune system was lousy.
Mm.
I mean, it was just one thing after another. And yeah, and gut issues on top of all that too. it was living hell, literally, is what I was going through. And unfortunately, the medical establishment didn't really have a lot of answers for me. And I knew the medical establishment well. For people who didn't know, I worked there for like about 2 decades in the medical field. And so I really knew what went behind the scenes. I worked with numerous doctors, numerous specialists, and I knew what was mostly offered in the field. And when I got sick, I was like literally thinking, oh no, now I got to go through the gauntlet of the medical system. And it was terrible, and it did not go well. And they really weren't able to help me much. As you know, they just either want to give you pain pills or anti-inflammatories and maybe even throw antidepressants at you. And
Antidepressants, yeah.
they're not there to, I hate to say it, but in my personal experience, I will say throughout this, process, I'll just say I'm not going to give any medical advice today. I'm not going to make
Yeah,
any medical claims, just so that's clear out there. But in my own experience, it wasn't very helpful what they had to offer, both when I was younger, because they tried the antidepressants and all this garbage on me that didn't do anything. I had to go through the journey myself. And then when I was physically sick, I ended up having to find my own way. And water was a huge part of, the beautiful thing that helped me a great deal. And I've used those same techniques with people who I care about, family members like my father and different friends and family. And it's been such a miracle. So as much as I hate what I went through, and I really do, it's really difficult for me to be happy about what I went through. But I do now. I want to find the good in everything, and all I can say is that I'm grateful that I found what I found because it's been able to help others, which is a huge reason that I'm even here today with you. Because I think it's important for people to know what I've discovered, with the hopes that it helps them. Because I think a lot of people are hurting these days. So
sure. And I think sometimes I have to agree with you there. Sometimes we've got to go through some pain and some suffering or a tragedy, to actually pull ourselves out the other side. It's funny how that sort of thing comes around, but I really think it's something that we create for our best interest and to help us to take that step forward spiritually and to grow and expand.
I completely agree with you. That was the one thing that I saw throughout my entire process. And it's the only thing that keeps me from not being super upset about it. Again, I'm not happy with it, but I'm grateful for what I've been able to find. And it's hard to say it was worth it because it was so painful, but I want to make it worth it by sharing it and hoping that it helps others. To me, that's what will make it worth it. My suffering in order to help others.
Sure. Okay. Um, you had mentioned water, and you and I are both on the same page about the importance of water and it being clean and pure. And can you tell us a little bit about water toxicity? Talk to us about that, how our water is treated and what people, what you can find in that water.
Yeah. So one of the avenues that I took when I was trying to find my way to, get rid of my medical conditions, I was hoping that water, I just thought intuitively, there's so much garbage in our water. How can I get clean water? And I always became very frustrated because it felt like, every single different show I would watch or research that I would do, it seemed like nobody would agree on the water. Everybody would say something different. Some person would say, oh, you need the water at this pH, or some person would say, no, this water filter is the best, or no, you should drink this. And it became very confusing. And that happened a lot on my health journey. So many people are contradicting each other. And so what I ended up doing was really trying to follow just the science and just data, and then also thinking on my own. And I've always been a very independent thinker.
Mhm.
So I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to think on my own and see what I would come up with. And basically, what I came up with was, you know what, instead of thinking about the pH of water, instead of thinking about all these other things about water, how about just clean water? How do I get
Yes.
clean water? And I have a lab test here, actually, a third-party lab test, and there's pages of contaminants in the water. It's absolutely
Oh,
crazy. And I
wow.
could just to name a few, like some of the most
Clean.
horrendous ones that are just in about basically just about everybody's water in America. Well water, municipal water, and that's something they call PFAS. There's two different kinds. One's called PFOA, one's called PFOS. And these particular chemicals they're pronounced throughout the United States, but they're really bad they're super bad in California, New York, Florida, Texas, just to name a few. And these chemicals, toxicologists, which tell you how much of a certain toxin is safe, with PFAS, they kept lowering the number. Eventually, they reached a point where they said 0. Like they can't even be a small amount that is safe. That's how bad it is. And that
Wow.
says a lot, you know, for a toxicologist to go that far.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got to figure out how to filter out PFAS. But I mean, the majority of these things, I mean, I can't even pronounce over half of them. Here, I could show you a few here if I come up
Sure.
to the camera or whatever. I don't know. I know the reflection
Oh
here,
yeah. Yeah, you need to look
but
that up.
yeah, look how many. I mean, look at all this list.
Oh
And
my
here's the
goodness.
PFAS. Here's the P. Let's see if I can show you this. There's PFAS. I don't know if that's coming
PFAS.
clear.
Yep, I can see. Mm-hmm.
And see how it says 26 or a 7, and it goes
Uh-huh.
through this process that I use to filter my water, and look, it's all zeros after it goes
Dear.
through the process I use.
Wow,
But
that's amazing.
most water filters will not remove everything. In fact, I've become a little bit of a water expert. I had to look up every water filtration modality in existence, and I
Yeah.
looked at all the pluses, all the minuses, and there was only one that could not only filter out the toxins. There's things that I discovered in water that nobody talks about. I
Mhm.
can show you, for example, obviously we know we have chemicals in there and runoff from farming and all the, you know, chemicals they use in farming, obviously like pesticides, fungicides, herbicides. But the ones that surprised me, the biggest ones were one, radioactive contaminants. I mean, who thinks of that there's radioactive waste in our water? This is
No,
crazy to me.
it is
And
crazy.
I discovered that this water filtration modality that I use that is not that expensive, and I think just about anybody can afford it, was able to remove the radioactive waste, and it affects babies or very young children the most because their immune systems are
Yes.
not fully developed. You know,
Not
so
developed. Yeah.
it's the most dangerous for them. Maybe that's why we're seeing such an uptick in all sorts of different, honestly, medical conditions in children like we've never seen before. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I still think that there's multiple things that could be causing it, but water is at the core. I mean, there's literally, if you see a whole town that's sick, like in China, they had all these people getting cancer, and eventually they figured out what the problem was. It was the water in the town. So if
Yeah.
everybody's getting sick, you always look to water because you use
Yeah.
it for everything: washing vegetables, you know, washing
Hmm.
dishes, taking
Yeah.
showers. I mean, everything. It's just too important. And then the other one that really shocked me was biological contaminants in water. So we're talking viruses, bacteria, you know, worms, parasites. I mean, no water filter can remove that, but this one that I use, I call it carbon distiller.
Yeah.
It does remove all the viruses, all the bacteria, any parasites, worms, anything really gross in your water.
Yeah, that
So
sounds
it's really,
disgusting, doesn't it? Ew, ew.
it does.
I know, and I'm a big thing about water. Um, and I just found out recently that, I mean, I did quite a bit of research on my water filter because the tap water to me just tastes like, drinking out the pool. It does
It
not
does.
taste right to me. It's like, that's horrible. How can I drink that? So I started to have, the bottled water, bottled spring water. I wouldn't use the distilled
Mhm,
water at the time, but I would use um, the spring water. And then all this
mhm.
came out about, the plastic bottle, and it was leaking all these plastics and toxins and chemicals
Yes.
into it. So that got, put by the wayside. And then I did some research on the water filters. And the one that we bought had a really good write-up. And I only learned recently that the fluoride filters that are on it that are supposed to take
Oh,
out
yes.
the fluoride, because I'm a big thing about fluoride. I don't like it at all. I want to avoid it at all costs. So of course I got
Yes.
these fluoride filters, yeah, only to find out that apparently they're not filtering out the fluoride. They're actually putting other chemicals into the water that's at the bottom that you are drinking. And there's a class action lawsuit against it. And I'm devastated about the whole thing. And some of
Yes.
the, yeah, we've got to be so careful about the research that we do. And here was me thinking I was doing my due diligence.
You know, that's the biggest thing too. When I went into this journey of trying to find my way, I was shocked and I spent way too much money on different products and different things. Two things that I was shocked with. One, I learned that this whole health industry, even the natural health industry or whatnot, I just found out a lot of shenanigans in that industry. I mean, I just saw the latest statistic. Almost 50% of all supplements don't even have what they're telling you they have in them or the proper levels of what they're claiming. And I found a lot of terrible stuff just like the fluoride filters, I think I was the one who told you about it, if I remember correctly.
Yes, you were.
And and I'm very, very well versed in this, and that's why the device that I use, my concern is a lot of the products that we're getting from China. I hate to
Mhm.
say, bring them up, but that's where I see a lot of the quote unquote shenanigans. And even when you see things that are made supposedly in America, they can get parts from China or get product from China and then put them together, do something in America and claim that they're made here. So I've had to do very, very deep research, and I found my way. And obviously, I think I opened up a YouTube channel to share this information with people for free. People can watch it for free, and I've done that to help people because I've done so much research. I've done so much
Mhm.
homework. I thought, why not share all this? It's just way
Yeah.
too much. And you brought up fluoride. I found it here on the list. It was on a
Yeah.
3.7 when they tested the water, and after it goes through the process I put it through, a 0.
A
So
zero. Uh-huh.
it does remove it all.
Okay,
So
that's fantastic, and I'm really really glad you're doing the research and sharing it with people because people need to understand. They need to know it and understand it. That help them make a better decision about how they move forward with with whatever it is they're doing with their water to be more mindful of it. I'm just curious
yes,
because one of my big things at the minute is glyphosate. Is
yes,
is it found or is it on that list? Because
yes,
that's very
absolutely. I
interesting
saw
to
it.
me.
I'm gonna look for it here, and I know that I saw it before, but I just gonna look for it here because I know that it'll remove it because it's something that was a concern to me too.
Yeah, and I know the
But I want to
glyphosate
see.
that they spray it so heavily on these
Oh
GMO
wow,
crops that
the
it's
number's really, the number's really high too. So it tested at 185.8 when they tested the water, and
well,
after going through the process I put it through, a 0.
a zero,
So
but
it removes
185 for
all.
everybody else that's consuming the water out the tap, the treated water or the cleaned water that were
Yes.
provided, and yeah, that's still horrendously high. Wow, wow.
Oh,
And
it's very high.
yeah, where do you stand? Because I have been hearing things about pharmaceuticals being detected in the tap water as well.
Yes, that the biggest ones that I found in water are antibiotics, and this is going to be a big issue because it kills beneficial bacteria and it makes you more resistant to antibiotics. But that's one of the big ones I saw in the water. This appears to remove it. What's the other one I found? A huge amount of antidepressants in the water,
Wow.
and women's hormones, almost like women who use contraception, and that ends up in the water. So those are the. I'm not saying that there's not other stuff in the water, but those are the
Uh-huh.
three that were very, very
Sky
present
high.
in
Wow.
all the water. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. And it's not a good thing to think about, not at all. For you
Yeah, it
actually
makes.
consuming that.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely not good for us hormonally. It's not good for resistance to antibiotics. And then, of course, antidepressants and the long-term research that's coming out about how they affect our brain is not good either.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of it's pretty bad. The sad part is that a lot of people don't know how to navigate the world, or they don't even think that it's a big deal. They're just like, it's no big deal. And it's no big deal until you get sick, and then all of a sudden, it's a big deal.
That's true. And with these type of things in the water, how does that
Uh,
affect your health? Hi.
yeah, there he goes.
How does it
And
all affect your health?
it. Think about this, right? Okay, buddy. um, I I think it depends. If you think about it, we're talking about a cocktail of
Mhm.
so many crazy things in our
Yes.
water. How can it not affect your health?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Hmm.
like I said, whether it's hormonally, whether it's mentally, whether it's in regards to again our gut health, which we know is very much connected to our brain health. And the majority of our immune system, I believe it's almost 80% of our immune system is found in our gut. Um, it's just complete craziness in my mind. Now that I've realized what I realized and been able to dig myself out of the hole that I was in, it's just unbelievable. I still can't believe it. And how many people just don't find it that important or even think, oh, it's too expensive to clean my water. And the truth is, it's cheaper than buying bottled water in the long term. A device that cleans your water will be paid off within, I don't know, 4 to 6 months as compared to buying bottled water. And
Yeah.
then after that, it just saves you money.
So tell us what you learned then about, water and hydrogen. I want you to tell us what you discovered in your research.
Yeah, so that first, this was just about clean water. Now, did clean water resolve all my problems? No, it didn't. It was more, to me, cleaning water is more of a preventative. You're preventing this stuff from coming in your body, prevent it from wreaking havoc and putting a strain on your kidneys, your liver, these type of things, because your body's trying to flush it out. I've
Yeah.
seen literally urine analysis of people, even groups of people who eat even just non-organic food, and the amount of pesticides in their urine is unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
And then people wonder why their kidneys end up giving out. They're like, geez, I didn't do anything. Why are my kidneys giving out?
Yeah.
But the real healing part of the journey, which was ironic because I looked at nature for guidance. That's how I actually discovered how to clean water. This process that I use is actually mimicking nature. So, to clean water, I literally took it from nature because I think nature's so brilliant. And
Sure.
I found a place, I don't know if you ever heard of a place called Lourdes, France, or Lourdes, France.
Lord France.
Yeah, the healing waters of Lourdes. And what I discovered there is that water was rich in molecular hydrogen. That's what was discovered apparently by the Japanese. And then I found out that they were, doing studies with this type of hydrogen, seeing amazing results, not only with animals, which is where it began, but eventually, they started seeing so many crazy results. I believe at this point there's over 2,000 studies, not 100, not 200, not 500. Over 2,000. It's a lot of research that went into this, and eventually the Japanese medically approved it. And I remember when I was first reading the medical research, I literally thought it was a scam. I said, this has to be a scam because it sounds way too good to be true. And I read the data for almost 4 years until I was so desperate because I was so sick. And I was like, you know what? I need to implement something else because I tried diets, different types of diets and clean diets. I tried the super clean water. I did all these things, but it wasn't what really brought, it was helpful to some extent, but the real magic came from the hydrogen. And that's where I became the Hydrogen Man, affectionately known as the Hydrogen Man online. And,
Yeah.
and I researched this so much, and the more I researched it, the more I realized, the importance of making it a certain way, how to use it a certain way, so that it won't be harmful, by the way, because there are ways that people make hydrogen using chemicals, believe it or not.
Okay. Well, maybe you could tell us a bit more about that if we could just take a quick break for these messages from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
I'm Kelly Melissa Reinhart, host of Make Mental Health Matter. Join me on Mondays at 11 a.m. and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the Achieve TV network right here on E360 TV.
Hi there, and we are here today with Greg Hman, and he is talking to us about his research on hydrogen. So please continue.
Yeah, so basically, it's funny how I didn't expect the story to be a spiritual journey, really. And it definitely became that, because we're talking about one of the most spiritual places apparently on planet Earth, right? The healing waters of Lourdes, as they call them, in France. And the part of it that was so amazing was that, again, it had molecular hydrogen in it. And not to be confused, remember, there are other forms of hydrogen. And I always caution people with this, because people will try to jump on the hydrogen train. Just remember that we're talking about molecular hydrogen. We're not talking about things like Brown's gas or things like deuterium. There's different types of hydrogen. And what's funny about this hydrogen that I ended up discovering that there's so much medical research behind is that this molecule ascends. It's literally what I now call, like, it's an ascension molecule. And I'm like, this is crazy, because the ascension molecule seems to have this very wonderful, profound effect on the human body. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how it all began. And I just started, reading a lot about it, reading all the different ways to make it, as there's many different ways, which one could potentially be the best way. And this was all because I wanted to do it for myself. I just wanted to try something to see if it would help me. And it ended up doing a lot more than just helping me. It not only began to help a lot of people that I personally know, and even people online who have found me. What was interesting is also how it affected on a spiritual level, but nobody noticed it initially. In time, I began to notice these subtle changes, and I remember thinking, like, is this the water? Like, what is causing this? And I didn't want to I'm a little bit more of a facts guy. I got to go off the data and the facts, stick to the facts, not opinions. But as time went on, it became pretty clear that it's having this effect on others, because other people started telling me how they've changed so much and how it's affecting them in different ways. And it's just, I literally just talked to someone, I believe the day before yesterday, and they wanted to show me pictures of their entire kitchen and how it's changed, because they're like, look at all the produce I have now, and I got rid of all the junk. And they have like the salt water lamp, or salt lamp,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they had like a lot of like things that, they had the blender to make the healthy smoothie. They just had changed so much. And that was not the only person who has said that. And that person has become quite spiritual. That's just one example of many. And it's just been so interesting to see this molecule not only affect my health, but affect me very much on a spiritual level. And of course, one of the little theories, there's a lot of theories that I have about it, but one of them is how this stuff, if this is why it's so important that it's extremely pure, because we are talking about a gas. Hydrogen's a gas, just like oxygen. Mm-hmm. And for people who understand that there's a difference between medical grade oxygen and just like normal oxygen, or even like welding oxygen, it's not the same. So medical grade, the purity is very high. And that's actually what helped me get through my journey so much, is I focused on the purity of everything. I was like, I want the purest food, least amount of chemicals or pesticides. I want the purest water, cleanest water. I want the cleanest hydrogen, of course, with proper levels. And then overcoming nutritional deficiencies, purifying the body from actually a lot of like the parasites, the worms, and I did a lot of, parasitic cleanses. And so the whole thing was actually about purity in the end, and it really, really went amazingly well. But I learned that hydrogen being pure was of utmost importance. In fact, there's a doctor, he's one of the top doctors in Japan. This guy's like a neurosurgeon. He's just brilliant, and he works with patients. And he will only use, actually, the device that I'm using. The device that I use is not made in China. It is all engineered in Japan. And it's probably the most copied unit, or attempted to copied unit, because it was the number one device in all of Japan. But the guy will only use that, and it's the only device that he recommends to his patients. And he's the one that really taught me by saying that how pure the hydrogen is of extreme importance, because it could even potentially be dangerous if it's not of the high purity, because hydrogen will go right past your blood-brain barrier. It'll go right to your brain, right to the pineal gland. And that's why he said it's so important that it's made very, very specifically and properly. And so I've learned a lot about that.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So what you were saying that, you've seen some changes in, yourself and some family or friends. What kind of ailments can this help with?
Man, well, what I've personally seen, I've seen people with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, glaucoma, arthritis, autoimmune issues. I remember this woman who had really bad Crohn's disease, another woman who had really bad celiac disease. You know, I myself had, you know, obviously not only gut issues, but my heart condition. That was one of the most shocking ones because I was told that I needed open heart surgery. And when I used the right type of hydrogen, because I tried many different types because I wasn't as familiar as I am now with all the different ways of making it, and I wasn't getting any results for my heart. When I got the proper equipment and I created my own personal protocol, my heart condition went away. I never needed a surgery. My cardiologist was absolutely blown away. And then I wasn't the only one. I shared it with somebody who had the same condition I did. Their heart condition went away too. And it's one of the things that actually hydrogen is medically approved for in Japan, is for people who've had like heart attacks and strokes. And I mean, I've even heard crazy stuff like people with like macular degeneration, eye conditions, basically, and even improving their vision. And I was like, wow, because hydrogen.
Yeah. I need some of that. I was blind as a bat without my glasses.
You know, my vision's even better now. It's so crazy because if the way that it functions, the scientists were looking at it thinking, I remember the list of medical conditions and the list of medications you would take for those conditions, and the list was so massive. And they couldn't understand how one thing could deal with all these conditions that they had seen scientific studies where hydrogen was having a positive effect, and they couldn't understand how that was possible. And ultimately, they realized that free radicals, or ROS, reactive oxygen species, or oxidative stress, has such a profound effect on our health. And hydrogen has an affinity to oxygen. That's why water is made of H2O. It's 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. In our bodies, oxidative stress is a form of like oxygen. You know, that's why they'll say like reactive oxygen species. And so hydrogen appears to function as a what they call a selective antioxidant. And it's a very unique antioxidant. For people who don't know, I could pull up a chart, but antioxidants come in different sizes. So if I were to give you an example, this would be like the size of CoQ10 or vitamin C or vitamin E, you know, it would be like this size. Well, hydrogen would be like a tiny little piece of sand. You wouldn't even be able to see it almost. It'd be extremely tiny. But this is part of the reason that it's important for it to be pure. But what makes it so effective, because it can actually get into every nick and cranny of this body. Like there is
like
no place.
100% bioavailable.
Yes.
Yeah.
It gets everywhere. And as long as it's clean and medical grade is what I would call it, it's super pure, then it appears to be like one of the most purest substances ever. So it can go straight to my brain and totally be fine. I don't have to be scared of it going to my brain. And it can just go to any part of the body. And what surprised me, I actually thought of it, one of the first scientific studies that I read, I saw how protective hydrogen is. And when I say protective, I could give you numerous examples. One of my more favorite ones is I don't know if you've ever heard of cisplatin. It's a cancer drug.
No, I have no.
But doctors rarely use it because it's so damaging. It will literally destroy your kidneys to the point where you're going to need a kidney transplant, most likely, if you use it. And I saw one study, but there's numerous different studies where hydrogen appears to protect you from the majority of the negative effects, so that you could do maybe potentially something like cisplatin and walk out with your original kidneys. And that's just one of many examples. I have a video, number 8. All my videos on YouTube are numbered. And number 8 shows the effects of like chemotherapy or radiation on the cells and how much damage they do. But that was without hydrogen. Then they would do that same one with hydrogen, and the data, when you would look at it, because I actually have footage of it, is so unbelievable, because it looks like it's barely making a dent, whereas without the hydrogen, it's just destroying your cells. So hydrogen's almost like this miracle thing that to me looked like a guardian angel, which is the whole reason I named my channel Uprising144K, because the 144K, you know, which is the 144,000 in ancient scriptures, basically said, when I remember reading it, that it said that they were the people, or the ones who survived the Great Tribulation. And I don't know why it just came to me like an angel descending upon me, and it just came to me that, you know, hydrogen's going to be something very special. It has a lot to do with the age of Aquarius that is coming, which will be, and this is all my personal opinion, not to get too spiritual, but I think the age of Aquarius has a lot to do with the knowledge of water, the ways of water, This is why I think places like Atlantis had so much knowledge about water, because water holds the key. There's so many beautiful, amazing things that we don't totally understand about water just yet. And I've literally used it to change my life. And it's the thing that seems to be so polluted, which makes me so sad. But it's almost like that's sometimes the world looks like it's trying to destroy itself or destroy us, you
Yeah.
know?
No, I
And
hear
so
you.
it's
And it's
so to
super
have something that
important.
will,
Yeah, because we're what, 70% water, aren't we? And there's not really anything on Earth that can survive without water.
I mean, obviously it's something that is extremely important. And then we have the light of the world, which is our sun or our star, and even all the stars in the heavens, they're all made of hydrogen, you know, and the sun, which is hydrogen, when it hits the ocean, it's what literally causes the water again to ascend and go through the purification process, comes down on the mountains as snow or rain. There's even ancient scripture where it says, you know, pure as the driven snow, pure as white as snow. And of course, I discovered through the lab tests, because that's, again, I'll observe nature, but then I'll try to figure it out through scientific rigor and try to put all these pieces together, you know, which is ultimately what I did here, and learn how to apply it in my life, not just talk about it, not just pontificate, but like, how do I apply this to my life? And that's the avenue that I really took that really made the change.
Okay. And you were talking there about after it goes through the purification process. So tell us about what happens, you know, for you're saying after you purify the water, there's zero of these contaminants in it. How do
Yeah.
you get pure water with zero contaminants?
So the first thing I run it through, I call it a carbon distiller.
Mhm.
You can get many distillers just about anywhere. The one that I personally use, it's found on a website called mypurewater.com. And I use that company, their product, because they're made in America. They use higher grade components, specifically the metals. That's one of the big things that I've had to learn a lot about is metal technology or metallurgy, because it's a huge part about making hydrogen properly. And I didn't know until I researched this deeply. And I saw the importance of metal and the science behind it. Of course, Japanese are elites when it comes to metal. That's why their like samurai swords are so amazing and they're so old, and they're just masters at it. And that's why they created the best hydrogen machine I've ever found. It was a Japanese model, obviously. But so that particular carbon distiller, and they use a better little carbon filter at the very end, which it just filters out a few little things at the very end that are left through the distillation process. But that water comes out so clean, and I absolutely love it, and I use it every single day, and that's all I put in my body these days.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. So, hydrogen is all hydrogen. I mean, you're saying that there's different grades of it. Can you give
Yeah.
us a little bit more information about that?
Yeah, so when it comes to hydrogen, actually, and I don't know if you want me to give your audience, I also have a discount code for the carbon distillers. They don't have to use it if they don't want to, but if they want a discount, they can use a code. It's called Uprising144K for those
Okay. There you
carbon
go.
distillers. But for the hydrogen, that was the one that became extremely tricky. There's a lot of products out there that I don't personally use for good reason, you know, because I've seen things out there like literally hydrogen pills. They literally sell pills that undergo a chemical reaction. And obviously, the specialists in Japan, like this neurosurgeon, you know, he's like, I would never use anything like that. Or other machines, they use things like lye, which is sodium hydroxide, which is a very caustic chemical. It's actually the main ingredient in Drano. And it's crazy to me that they're doing this. So, but the world of hydrogen, if you can believe it, they're doing it. It's unbelievable. Or cheap metals. So when you're using cheap metal or plated metal, again from China, it can leach basically into the water. And I was like, this is crazy. How am I going to find not only very pure hydrogen, but also the right way of making it? And then I stumbled upon, later on, I found out it was the #1 hydrogen company in the world. And it's a Japanese company. And that's how I discovered the device that I ultimately found. And that was the one that actually, after trying many devices, it was this one right here that actually got rid of my heart condition and really made amazing changes for both me and others. And that's when I realized that the type of hydrogen matters. And we are talking about molecular hydrogen, not any other type. It's literally molecular hydrogen.
Okay. And you inhale the hydrogen at the same time, do you?
Yeah, so this is what's beautiful about it is there's two main ways that you can apply it that seem to be the best. And the nice thing about the device that I'm using is that it does both. So it makes the water and a very high quality water. There's different ways to make the hydrogen water. This is the best I've ever seen. I think everybody in the real know knows this is the best way to do it. The name of the device is called the Lourdes Hydrofix Premium, for those who want to know. The premium edition is really the one to get. And the official company website is called holyhydrogen.com, which is a pretty fitting name, Holy Hydrogen. I thought
Holy
that was
hydrogen,
hilarious
yeah.
because it's like holy water. And then so it not only makes the water, but also makes the gas. So you can inhale the gas, you can drink the water. I discovered that the combination is ideal. And after I discovered that and I released it on YouTube, I'm pretty certain that my channel is watched by so-called professionals, because after I released that video, within 2 to 3 months, I saw my protocol being used in a study. So I knew that it was mine because I'm the one who created it. And it proved what I'd been, what my assumption or my theory was. It proved that it was the best method, which is the combination of the water and inhalation. Now you can just do one or the other too, but if you want to get the most out of hydrogen, drinking the water and inhalation seems to be the best. And one of the really nice things about too, this is the reason I think that also the medical professionals in Japan use the same device, is because it's actually, the devices are lab tested and they're certified. So they're actually, every single device is tested in a lab, and I saw the certification that comes with my machine, shows the lab, the amount of hydrogen. And that's how I also found it, was because I was reading the data on the device and I thought, wow, because you have to do a lot of homework in regards to how much hydrogen am I supposed to be getting, what were they using, and what levels were they using in these studies, so that it could be effective for me. That was what I was looking for. And all the levels were like literally just like the science. And I thought, wow, this is almost like textbook. And I found out that that's how they built it and designed it, following all the research. And that's another reason that it's, not just something made in a garage. This thing is following the science and the data. And I think that's why it works so well.
Okay. I'm just wondering how long it took you to start feeling better, when you were inhaling and drinking the hydrogen water. How long did it take you until you started to notice a considerable change?
That's a very popular question. And I've noticed that it depends on the person. The majority of people I've seen 6 to 8 months is probably the main number that I've seen. But I've also seen, and even for me, it took years. Like one of the ones that kind of blew my mind was my father. He had a lot of different conditions, but one of the interesting ones was glaucoma. And with glaucoma, it took like 3 years before he was not testing positive for it. And 3 years is a long time. But one thing that I've noticed about hydrogen, it seems like it begins to do what it does on a cellular level, because you can see it. I have video 68 where it shows live blood analysis. I had doctors see that video. And I remember a doctor calling me and literally telling me, what you're showing there is impossible. They literally thought it was a scam, just like I did originally. And they actually bought the same equipment, performed the same study in their own lab, because they wanted to prove me wrong. And all they did was prove that my video is correct. And they became a huge proponent of hydrogen and started giving it to their 90-something-year-old mother. And the results for her were pretty dramatic also. So it's been a very interesting, fun journey. And I've obviously worked now with a lot of physicians, a lot of doctors. They actually contact me to get some form of education or training or have questions, because they haven't researched this subject. It's not something that's taught in medical school in America, clearly. So I've had a lot of people reach out to me for help. Obviously, a lot of naturopaths too, and just all over the place.
Yeah. Does it help with things like migraines?
I've received a lot of testimonials in regards to that. Yes.
Oh, cool.
So, I can't make a medical claim, but I can tell you that I've had numerous people. In fact, I think it was just about a week or two ago. Somebody, there was a guy who I actually know. He's kind of like a friend of mine, and his wife was feeling terrible and had a terrible headache. He's like, just sit down and inhale some hydrogen. And he's got the same device I have. And she inhaled it and she couldn't believe it. And he was like, oh my gosh, he was so happy for her that she didn't have to rely on some type of medical drug or something for her headache. So it reminds me of that story. That was just a few weeks ago.
Sure. So it's, it depends on the severity of the condition, I suppose, as to how long it's going to take to start helping. And how many times a day would you use this?
It depends on the person, but me, like, I always load up on the water in the morning. First thing in the morning, on an empty stomach, I load up on the water, and I try to do it before every meal. So a lot of the science, again, I follow a lot of data, and the science typically is when you eat a meal, it's actually has a lot of negative effects on the body. So I always load up with water, empty stomach, get the GI all hydrated, get the body all ready to go. And then also I'll do that before breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And throughout the day, if I want a little glass, I might just have a little glass. Sometimes one of my new techniques is literally inhaling the hydrogen while I eat, to combat some of the different things that food might have, some of the effects that food might have on the body that may not be the most positive, especially depending on what you're eating. Because like I said, hydrogen appears to be so protective. And we don't know what's in our food these days. And I think it's pretty bad. And I still eat as clean as possible. But that's one of the techniques that I've used.
I think sometimes it's really hard to eat as clean as possible because you think, by buying organic, you're getting really good quality food. You're not getting all the, the pesticides and the herbicides and the glyphosate that's, it's been sprayed on. And then you're finding when you go into the supermarket and pick up some bell peppers and you see that they're sprayed with this plastic stuff. You think, what can
Oh,
that,
yes.
why? I just can't understand
Well,
it at all.
that's why I'm so keen and so fond of clean water.
Mm.
And because the clean water, you're not introducing anything toxic and it helps flush everything out. And then also hydrogen, because hydrogen appears to be so protective and neutralizing free radicals and helping, because it functions as a selective antioxidant and appears to be also anti-inflammatory in nature. And it just does all these things. I mean, the list of things that it does is so long. I mean, it's really mind-boggling. And even scientists, just to this day, they still don't know exactly how it works. I mean, they're trying to figure it out, but all they know is that they can see that it works. They just don't know exactly how it's working. I mean, they're trying to figure that out, and there are pieces to
Can't
the puzzle.
explain it as yet. Yeah.
They can't, not fully, not yet.
Yeah. I have a short video about that product if you're okay with me playing that just now for the viewers so that they can actually see what it looks like. Is
Of
that
course.
okay with you?
Yeah, please.
Okay, hold on.
Holy Hydrogen introduces the most powerful health enhancement device in the world, the Lord's Hydrofix Premium Edition. Studies have shown therapeutic potential for cancer, diabetes, digestive and heart issues, and essentially every organ and system in the body. Visit holyhydrogen.com to see the latest technology that elevates your immune system and fights inflammation. This isn't medical advice, but if you have any health concerns, I strongly recommend that you learn more about hydrogen. Visit holyhydrogen.com to learn more about this groundbreaking gold standard hydrogen generator that for a reasonable price creates therapeutic quality hydrogen gas for inhalation and hydrogen infused water for consumption. Remember, holyhydrogen.com.
There we go. Looks like a nice machine. Do you want to? I know you've got an offer for the viewers if they're looking to, consider one of these machines. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, what blew my mind was the more I learned about hydrogen, the more I learned of how difficult it is to make it the correct way. The not correct way, you can do a very cheap way. You can definitely do it cheaply. But to really get medical grade hydrogen was so ridiculously not only expensive, but just inaccessible. You just wouldn't be able to do it. And the story behind the device that I found was such a beautiful story, actually. It's a Japanese gentleman whose daughter was sick and he wanted her to be able to use medical grade hydrogen in the home because doctors told him that his daughter she'd be lucky to make it to the age of 5 years old, which it was really bad. She was born with Lou Gehrig's disease and it was very sad. And what I learned was he wanted to make the best machine basically in the world. And he went out and found top engineers from top industries, I believe like Toyota and G-Shock and Yamaha. And he just got these really, really intelligent people to work on this project. And it was a labor of love. I remembered him stating that he did not want to do any of it in China. He wanted the thing done right, even if it cost a little bit more money. And he totally outdid himself because he had created a device that was so good, like nothing touches it. Nothing in the world is as good as this device when it comes to hydrogen. And it's been so good for so many people. And it's so affordable. You can have it. It's like having your own Lord's spring water, in your house because it's rich in hydrogen. And it's just, I'm actually extremely grateful to this gentleman. I mean, obviously, I don't really know him. I've actually technically only written emails and asked questions, but I just feel in my heart so grateful that somebody went out of their way and not to do it for the money and trying to take shortcuts in China for profits. He just wanted to do it. He's like, I'm going to do it all in Japan. My hands are going to be involved in the whole process. I am not going to let anybody screw this up. And I really appreciate that, even if it did cost a little more. Luckily, it's not $30,000 or $20,000. You know, he really used the technology was so brilliantly done. It's like super small. It was done the right way. It's quiet. It's easy to use. It's one button. I mean, for me, he totally outdid himself. And I really couldn't express my gratitude more, other than I am going to try to go to Japan, actually, and I might possibly try to go and meet this gentleman and express my gratitude, because he's done so much for my life, probably without even really knowing it.
Absolutely. Yeah, oh no, that's great. And this QR code up here, the offer you have for them is they can save $100 on this machine. Yeah, is that correct?
Yeah, my understanding is that I mean, the company, I believe, provided that, and they were like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, give people a discount if they would like one. And I always think that's great. And I do think that they're a wonderful company. They actually have live reps instead of just, you know, emails only, or you know, machines answering phones, and they've just been absolutely great. So yeah, I'm very grateful for all that, and I'm grateful to the company that makes the carbon distiller too. Though I know that there's other companies that do that too. So in the water filtration part, I've seen a lot of companies that have good products. In the world of hydrogen, unfortunately, I have not seen that. Probably in the future we'll see more of that. But you know, anything that's good, I'm always happy to share. But unfortunately, I have not found most of them. Like I said, they're either made with Chinese parts, or technically, you know, they may say that they're made in America and whatnot, but it was a lot of research that went into figuring out what really was the real stuff and what unfortunately isn't some of the real stuff. So
Yeah,
a lot of homework.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, you've done some great work. Honestly, it's fantastic information that you're giving us today. So, what are some of the things then that the viewers should be aware of if they're interested in trying the hydrogen therapy? Is there anything that you can tell them? Any advice?
You know, for me, it's two things. One, when you use hydrogen, yes, you can inhale the gas, but water plays a big role. And so water, in a lot of ways, is the carrier for the hydrogen gas, kind of like a woman having a baby. She's the carrier of this child. So obviously she wants to probably eat clean. It's going to affect the baby. The water's going to affect the hydrogen. And so my suggestion would be, make sure that you use the right equipment. The wrong equipment could be really bad. I'm not kidding you. I literally just got an email yesterday, and I get them all the time, of people who have been harmed by using the wrong forms of hydrogen. And that's usually the stuff with chemicals and just cheap products. If you're going to do it the cheap route, I would say just don't do it. You know, just clean your water, eat healthy, do other things. But if you want to do hydrogen, I highly recommend doing like medical grade, super clean, no chemicals. And I only know of literally this one company that does the best. And that's that Holy Hydrogen Company device, which is the Lourdes Hydrofix Premium. And be careful with knockoffs. I have had people literally email me and say, hey, I had an issue with my machine, and they come and ask me questions. And I dug before and found that they were fake. So it appears that China is probably making some fake ones, because it is the #1 device in Asia. It's extremely popular over there. So they have tried to make knockoffs.
Stick to the authentic ones. Yeah, absolutely. Ones tried and tested by Greg here. Yeah. Well, I have had a great conversation. It's been wonderful having you, Greg. Thank you for coming and educating us on the hydrogen, and you know the importance of having such clean water. And it's been super amazing that you have managed to find this and heal yourself from these ailments that you've had for quite a good chunk of your life. And I'm so glad you're so much better.
Oh, I am so relieved too. I'm so happy, and to give the audience real quick, because I know a lot of people who are into health will have like a million products or a whole cupboard full of supplements. And I feel that I was able to condense it down super easy and very basic stuff after trying basically everything. So I thought I might just give them a quick outline of the things that I use, because it's really brief.
Sure. Go ahead.
One, I use the carbon distiller, and that's just to clean water, right? Obviously, I use the hydrogen machine, and that's to infuse the hydrogen water and inhale the gas. The other one I do is overcoming nutritional deficiencies. So nutritional deficiencies are very, very important to overcome to have optimal health. And I did that very easy, actually. I've even had doctors contact me when they saw my blood work, because they're like, how are you accomplishing this? There's a company, the website's called ishoppurium.com, and they have a product called Power Shake. And I actually have a huge discount code for that one. Again, if they want to use it, it's Uprising144K. But this Power Shake product is just food. and it's in a powder, and it's all these superfoods. And I put it in these smoothies that I make for people who want to check out my channel. I show how to make the smoothies, obviously for free. And I put that in there because the body seems to assimilate food better. So for nutrients, so I use it as a multivitamin, even though it's not technically a multivitamin, but that's how I used it. And the only thing that I add to that is vitamin D, because vitamin D is the most difficult nutrient to get from food. And so I have a video on what I use, but it's an ionic D3 with K2 from a company called Concentrace. And I use that. And beyond that, it was just eating really clean, as clean as possible. I did do a lot of deworming and cleaning my body, anti-parasitic type of stuff. I have what I call a very anti-parasitic lifestyle. Most of the foods that I eat are actually anti-parasitic, which is really weird. And because I did a lot of research on a lot of the foods that I ate, I didn't even realize that I was doing it. And then I've used a lot of different products to deworm and really cleanse the body of those type of things. And that was how simple it was. I didn't have a million products, so I tried them, but I didn't have a million products.
Well, I have
and I
to
kept it simple.
say that the Purium Power Shake, I have taken that on several occasions, and I would give that the big thumbs up as well. But listen, we are totally out of time. I have had such a fantastic conversation. I want to say just thank you so much for coming on and giving us your story and your education. I'm entirely grateful. It's been fabulous. And thank you for our viewers for watching. Greg, I would love to have you back at some point if you're willing. But for now, we have to say goodbye and have a great weekend.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sweetheart. Bye-bye.
Thank you.